Fiction and reality. New stories, new ideas. Little Beth Entertainment.
Welcome to episode 111 of The Rocketry Show at TheRocketryShow.com. I'm CG, and we're joined this time around by Joe Hill. It's another workshop episode, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Stick around. We'll be right back right after this. The Rocketry Show would like to thank these listeners for their personal support of the podcast. Todd West, Jonah Taney, Kyle Lemkel, Joseph Petro, Les Rayburn, Stephen Spencer, Bill Cook, Jason Cook, Gary Rosenfield, Greg Ziegler, Toby Vanderbeek, Ken Blade, Eric Hamilton, John Beans, Scott Holla, Guy Wadsworth, Phil P., Tom Rum, Stephen Ray, Amanda Hull, Steve Sainer, Mark, RailButtons.com, and Todd West. If you wish to show your support for The Rocketry Show, just visit us at support.TheRocketryShow.com.
The Rocketry Show thanks RocketryForum.com for their support. This is Jesse, and I've been a member since 2017. The Rocketry Forum is a global community of Rocketeers who openly discuss all aspects of hobby rocketry. If you have a question, hop on and ask. There are hundreds of experts who can answer just about any rocketry question you have. Check them out today at RocketryForum.com.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running.
Welcome to The Rocketry Show.
All right, lift off and the clock is started. Yes, sir. Reading loud and clear.
A podcast that is all about advanced and high-power rocketry. Amateur-built rockets, starting at mid-power to higher-power versions that can reach the edges of space. This program is hosted by the team who love the smell of burning ammonium perchlorate in the morning. Here are CG, Gene, and model rocket guy, Jesse Yu.
Welcome to the award-winning Rocketry Show podcast. We got to keep saying that because, it's great. I am CG.
I'm Gene.
And I'm model rocket guy, Jesse Yu.
Yes, and as you noticed in the last few episodes, the smell of burning ammonium perchlorate is back. As it should be.
As it should be. That's about it. I was going to say that. Well, I did.
You just did.
It feels good. It sounds good.
I did.
Yeah. So anyway, we have another workshop episode for you here on the program, and we are joined by Mr. Joe Hill. So we're going to be talking rocket shop on this program.
Hey, Joe, what's up? Thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
This is a privilege for us. We understand that you're one of our East Coast main dudes out there, flying with your L3 power and doing a bunch of fun stuff. So we wanted to bring you on and talk some stuff.
Absolutely, man. We're really blessed to have such a great venue on the East Coast as far as flying high power. We've got a massive field, and it's pretty much, super flat and nothing in the way. So it's really nice, which is really rare on the East Coast. A lot of trees out here.
Oh, right. Yeah, talk about your field. You have whereabouts is that, and tell us the deets.
So we are Tripoli, East North Carolina, prefecture number 65. We've been around for almost 30 years. And the field that we fly at, the field that we fly at is in Fayetteville, North Carolina, which is right near the coast. It's 4,000 acres of completely flat, unobstructed land. We've got a waiver to 17,500 feet, and
nice.
Trust me, we use it.
Every square foot of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very blessed that we have such a great relationship with the farmers out there, and we've been flying at that field now for a little over, I think next year will be our 17th season. We haven't always flown at that field. The prefecture started in Whitakers, North Carolina in the early 90s, which was about a quarter size of the field that we have now. So sometimes, I pass that field on the way home to visit my parents, and I'm just going, I can't believe I thought that was the East Coast Mecca launch site now that we have Fayetteville. So it's fantastic out there.
That sounds amazing to me. I know that you keep inviting us to go out and see us, so we're going to have to find some time to do that because, big fields like that is always something we got to try. And, just seeing other Rocketeers that we talk to. What other Rocketeers do we know that fly out there with you, Joe?
Not many that are active on social media. I will say there's some names that you've probably seen in some literature or some publishings. Like,
okay,
I'm very, very fortunate to fly with Alan Whitmore and Jim Livingston.
Wow,
those are
okay.
two names or two people rather, that I look up to as rocketry gods. Alan has been mixing his own propellant since the late 90s, and he hasn't flown a single commercial motor since. So he's been flying his own stuff for over 20 years, and so is Jim Livingston. And those guys taught me pretty much everything I know as far as mixing my own propellant. And some of you may have seen when Gary Rosenfield posts newly certified motors, it's got Alan's signature on it. He's the head of Tripoli motor testing. And
interesting.
Yeah, I'm once again very fortunate to fly with those guys because they're just incredibly, they're just such intellectuals, and they're willing to give out any information that they have for no cost. And it's really awesome being able to fly with those guys.
That seems to be the case when you start getting into experimental. I'm working with Steve Eves and Chris Pearson as I'm dipping my toe into experimental. We'll get into a little bit of that later. But it seems like everybody's really helpful in that once you get to that area, that level, to share knowledge and stuff. And I've actually I've started a recipe book, and I'm starting to collect some items together to start doing this because it's my next step. And it's really cool to see everybody out there that is willing to help. I mean, it's pretty cool for me because I don't know much about it, but I'm learning quickly.
So,
oh yeah,
I'm glad that you guys have good mentors for that stuff because, there's a lot of taboo about, doing the propellant mixtures and stuff like that. And, just a reminder for everybody to stay safe. But all the people that you mentioned, Joe, all the people that you mentioned, Jim, those are big names in rocketry and everybody knows who they are. So it's interesting that you guys, are able to reflect that. That's amazing. We got a lot of big names here in Colorado that if I mentioned, you guys would know. And, James Russell, Conway Stevens. And then in the Midwest, you got, Eric and all those guys. So, yeah, you guys, it's good stuff. And then let's not forget, the West Coast. I mean, there's a lot of big names out there that do that stuff too. So, so I have to ask, one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you, Joe, you built a Mack Scorpion. And that was based on a box opening that I did for a video for the Rocketry Show a while back. I haven't built mine yet. So can you tell me a little bit about yours? Because between you and Andrew Kleinhans talking about those, I need your feedback now.
Oh, man. Yeah, the whole reason why I bought this Mack Performance Scorpion was because I watched your unboxing of the 4-inch version. I got the 3-inch version only because I already have a 4-inch 4-fin high performance rocket. Said, well, I need a 3-inch one just to,
there you go,
for 54 millimeter motors. And
all right,
the first thing I noticed when I opened this package was how neatly it was shipped and the quality of the materials. I was just blown away. I think the guy that runs Mack Performance, his name is Mike, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and another thing I really liked about Mack Performance is the availability of Mike. Anytime I had a question, I would email him, and I would get an email back within 10 minutes. And then he was nice enough to say, "Hey, man, here's a phone number you can reach me at if you want to call me for instant answers to any questions you have." But I had never worked with linen phenolic. No, I think he calls it canvas phenolic.
Yeah, it's canvas.
Yes,
fly canvas.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the quality of the tubing and stuff? I mean, you've done a lot of bigger stuff and fiberglass and all different kinds. I mean, what do you think? What are your thoughts on that stuff?
I absolutely love it. I would work with this stuff all day, every single day. It's an incredible.
Awesome.
It's a great, second to fiberglass.
Right?
It's a great alternative. It's not, it's not filament wound, so it's not going to be as strong, but it's lighter. it's a fraction as strong. So you can still do some pretty high performance things with it. And that's exactly what I wanted to do with this rocket. Is I wanted to build this thing and compare it to composite materials, or even, cardboard that I've glassed and things like that. And I flew it. The biggest motor I've flown on it so far was a month or two ago. I flew it on the Aerotech K695 Red, and went through Mach. Didn't bat an eye at it, and it was no problem at all. It was great.
How many times have you flown this bad boy already, dude? Because you got it, built it. I talk about it, and I haven't built mine yet. I ain't gonna lie. And how many times have you flown this thing already? I've
flown it twice. The first flight was on a K456 Dark Matter from Aerotech. Yeah, amazing. And I wanted to fly it on a K550, but my vendor was out of the K550, so I was like, okay, I guess the K695 will work. It's a slightly smaller K, but a higher average thrust. So, I got it off the pad a little bit quicker. But I do have an L1000 for it.
I love the L1000. That's like my favorite level 2 motor. It's a baby L, but it's got a lot of punch to it.
Yeah.
Oh,
and good. It's either the next flight at the beginning of our next season will either be on that or a research, probably 6-grain 54 millimeter motor.
Cool.
How tall is that rocket? I mean, it almost seems like 6-grain 54 would be a little too. It would fit, right? I mean, what are your differences there in measurement?
I've built it so that I can extend into the electronics bay.
Look at you.
So I can fit longer motors.
There you go.
Also, another thing that I have is I'm gonna order another section of 3-inch canvas phenolic from Mike, and then just attach it, couple it together with the already existing booster section, and then I can rivet it together, or come up with some sort of way where I can extend the booster section a little bit longer, so I can put real long motors in it.
Sounds like you're trying to plan a modular thing, like somebody that we know here in this group.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, most definitely. But all around, that Mac Performance kit is a killer 3-inch kit. Or I guess
it's not too costly, right? Not too costly either, right?
That was another thing. I was comparing price of materials as well to structural integrity, and just how crazy can I get with this canvas phenolic stuff relative to, like I said earlier, cardboard that's glassed, or phenolic that's glassed, or even filament wound G12 or G10.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate the feedback. I mean, after Andrew started talking about that, in our first workshop talk, when we started having guests on, he intrigued me. And then, I'm glad that you went this way too. And then here in Colorado, we have our senior flyer. His name is George Barnes. And he actually got Mike to create the 6-inch black fly. And if you guys have ever seen the 4-inch black fly, it's a pretty popular kit. I believe it's got 5 or 6 fins. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to go back and look. So I apologize.
So that name sounds like it'll look interesting. I've not seen that rocket.
Yeah, I'll have to find some stuff for it. But yeah, he flew it last weekend. Like, just does it like no big deal. So the thing about George is that he's not afraid to go and fly his rockets again and again and again, which is what you're supposed to do. I kind of fly mine once, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to put that to the side because I want to try to work on something else. But I was just thinking here for NSL, I got all these lock rockets and all this other stuff, and I'm thinking, you know what? I think my 5.5-inch Iris is going to have to go out there and make a debut at NSL again, just to, show, because I've never flown that rocket in Colorado, as odd as that sounds. It's so, now is my chance to go do that. So might have to throw an M in there, since I am a newly crowned level 3, and use that certification, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and congratulations, by the way. I think I messaged you, but I want to personally congratulate you on your level 3, man. That's awesome.
That was a headache, but
yep.
No, I'm glad to have done it, and I could have probably done it at my local club. After we go back and do other sims and do other configurations, I'm gonna give some folks a tip right away. And Jim, this is something I should have probably asked you, to begin with. But
hang on. Hang on. Okay. Before you go too deep, tell us about that level 3. We've kind of talked about it off show, but all the episodes have always fallen in a weird moment where it's been a guest and you haven't been able to talk about it. So tell us about it. You're level 3.
So just off the top, what I did is I worked with Jay and Dave from Lock, and we figured out, how to do an upscale of kind of like the Athena, the Athena 3, and the I believe it's called the Mystic Buzz, and it's not quite the same as those. And we did a few tweaks and stuff on it. We wound up getting the parts for it, and I had to make a lot of changes to the parts. So I feel like in the building of this rocket, I earned that level 3 just in the building end of it, because the fin slots were actually cut correctly, but the centering rings were cut, to be, to fit into the tabs for a 4-fin rocket versus a 3-fin rocket. So I had to go in and fix those centering rings first, and that took a little bit of engineering and thinking. So I was actually able to use epoxy to fill up the gaps and built some masking tape dams, and then did all that work. And then I was able to cut new fin slots on the centering ring so that, they would fit through the wall, and the fins would snap in there based up against the 98 millimeter tube. And, there's just a lot of tweaking that I had to do to the body tube. I decided to glass it. I only did it with 1 6-ounce strap of glass because the way that I had done it was with the Mylar, the polyurethane sheeting. So when I wrapped it, it basically fills all the gaps and, all the imperfections in the tube. I really, enjoy glassing all the things now. So that was just a no-brainer.
So
on the fins, go ahead.
So real quick I've been experimenting with different ways to cut channels into the centering rings to be able to lock my fins into the centering rings for through the wall stuff. And haven't done it the same way twice yet. And none of the ways I've done it, they're accident prone. All it takes is to be off for a little bit, and then but I somehow managed to avoid it. But what do you do? How do you cut your channels in and make sure everything comes across straight? What's your trick? So
what I did on the centering rings is, I measure them out based on how they fit on the tube. So the tube was already cut, and I took a measuring tape. Honestly, it's one of those that you would use for seamstresses would use for measuring, and it's that flexible tape. So I took that and I wrapped it around the tube and got the measurements, and then I compared that to the centering ring, and I made sure that all the markings were correct. Put it back into the tube, and then just line those off. So then the tabs are about 1/4 inch, long. So I take my little scroll saw, just the Harbor Freight scroll saw, the cheap one that you can get for like $100 or whatever, and I made my 2 little cuts in there, and then all I do to create the rest of that, because you can't turn it sideways, and you can take a drill and make a hole if you want to, but all I wound up doing is just kind of cutting into that 1/4 inch slot, and then just cutting extra little pieces off, until it got to the point where I could just take the blade and run my wood across there and then just kind of like sand it off. It's, and I actually figured out how to do that by watching people on TikTok. So, yeah.
Got it.
Anyway, it worked, and it's nice and smooth, and then you take some sandpaper, just clean it up, and then, fit it up against the wood. So the fin slot is only 3/8 long, but I'm sorry, 1/4 inch long, but the fins and the slot are actually 3/8. So, make it a little bigger so that I can make an epoxy fillet and all that stuff. But that's how I did it. It worked fine. And I've been doing it ever since on other projects too. So.
Got it. Okay. More ideas.
The fins of that rocket, I laminated with 8-ounce fiberglass. 8-ounce carbon fiber sheeting that I got from my local vendor. And they looked so good. And if you guys are building, something that you're laminating, usually if you use Mylar to do the laminating instead of, doing tip to tip with just, putting the brush across it and painting it on there, laminating that carbon fiber with Mylar, it just looks so good. What I should have done, and I recommend this for people who are going to start doing things like that for, aesthetics and cosmetics, cover that with tape and then cover it with another layer of tape. That way, when you're doing your filleting, when you're doing, however you pronounce that, whenever you're doing, any of that stuff, cover it with tape so you don't ruin that gloss, so you don't ruin that shine, because they looked so good. Then all of a sudden I'm like, just kind of moving the rocket around, banging it here and there. And, by that time, me, I have to stand on my fin can. So I did all that mess. And after it was built and everything, and then I start looking at my fins like, holy crap, that looks bad. So, I wound up sanding them down and, cleaning them up as best as I could. Took some 100 grit, then took some 2000 grit to it. From 100 grit all the way to like 2000 grit. and
Yeah,
you know,
that's
made them nice
extreme.
and smooth again. Yeah, and then I, you know, sprayed them with like a clear coat, and they did never ever look the same. So if you're gonna laminate that stuff, you know, cover it with tape and cover it with more tape. That way, all you have to do is peel the tape. You keep your gleam and your shine. I have another project that I'm doing more carbon fiber work with now, and I'm going to use, you know, just tape it off. That way, you know, you just cut off the tape that you need to for your fillets, and then once you do your fillets, then you can take the tape off when you're done, and then do whatever you need to do that way. So I got off on a really big tangent. Sorry about that.
That's fine. This is fascinating. I'm so far away from being able to do any of that stuff, but I like listening to it because I learn all these things from you, from the man who glasses all the things.
And you know, I just recently started doing this stuff, guys. And you know, you talk to people like Mike Fisher, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we used to do that all the time back in the day." And you know, Conway and all my, you know, local people that we have here, they even people who used to do rockets back, you know, like 10, 15 years ago, and then they're born again. They, you know, it seems like everybody from my clubs right now here in Colorado are glassing everything. These Easy I-65s that George Tuma and David Mihalko and all those guys are building, they're just glassing everything and, you know, using CF, and they're using the sleeves from Solar Composites. And, you know, we talked to Zyla, you know, recently, and she's glassing all the things too. It's becoming a thing again. If you guys want to learn how to mess with that, I mean, even just to do it for your finishing purposes, it's awesome. And I love it. So, you know, glassing this L3 was, honestly, those cardboard tubes from Lock are so thick, you don't really need to do that. You don't. But, you know, cosmetically, it just looks so badass. I'll say it. It looks badass. And I really like the way that the rocket came out. You know, when I was messing with my sims with that and everything, you know, I'd go to my L3CC and show them the updates and stuff like that. And then when we actually had the rocket, what I was going to touch base on earlier is if you have your motor, work with your L3CC or whoever's going to help certify that, or your TAPS or whoever it might be. And, you know, see if you can figure out what the weight of that motor is going to be. And then make sure that you check your, you know, CG against your sim, because mine was off a little bit. And we had to add some last minute nose weight to the rocket to make sure that everything was on par. And it did affect my sim a little bit. But, you know, I did all that in front of my L3CC, and we worked with it. And we were like, okay, so this looks good now. Let's go ahead and try it. So I was delayed in my flight when we first, you know, went out there because, you know, we had to make those changes. And you know, thank goodness he was there, because I was able to just, like, you know, do that work in front of him. We adjusted the sim, did all that stuff. And, you know, we put it up. I was about 1,500 feet less than what I had simmed. So I wound up flying that thing on a M1419W Aerotech White Lightning motor, 7-second burn. Jimmy, you and I've talked about that before. Mm-hmm. Guys, I got to tell you, it was just as glorious as 7 seconds on a burn would sound. It was loud. It was mean. And God, it just looked amazing. The big old plume of smoke, you know, and George Barnes took some pictures for me, and it just, you know, I'm impressed, you know, with just the way that thing looked. One of the, you know, I'm going off on tangents here, but we got about 5,152 feet out of the rocket based on my readings from my RRC3. You know, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I don't remember what my, you know, descent rate was with the parachute, so I apologize for that. I'll have to go back and look, and maybe I can report on that at some other time. I used a 12-foot spear shoot to bring it down, and then just a 36-inch stroke from spear shoots as well. It was gray and black, and Julie does amazing work, guys. I mean, I was really happy with the shoot. It looked amazing. RRC2, RRC3, that was my redundancy, and then I used my Apogee simple tracker. Led me right up to the rocket. You know, it was just kind of chilling there with the, you know, the nose cone just kind of hanging off the fence. Like you would picture, like, you know, if the nose cone had shoulders, it was just kind of chilling there on the fence. It's like, hey, what's up, bro? You know, so that's how it looked when we picked it up. And I think my favorite part of the flight, honestly, and this is kind of cheesy, but my wife was there with me. And, you know, she has just recently started going to rocket launches, you know, because, you know, COVID and staying at home and, you know, trying to get out and just be in society. Well, that was April 3rd when we flew that. So it was done on 4, 3, 2, 1. It was a nice day. You know, I think the temperature was around 75 degrees. Nice and cool, yet not too bad. And, you know, just put a couple layers of sunblock on, you were good for the day kind of thing. And she was there with me, and she held my hand as the thing went up. And I never thought that I'd be able to do that with her. So that was pretty amazing, you know. So I appreciate her doing that. It was a good day, you know, tired because the night before I couldn't sleep, you know, the nerves had kicked in, the butterflies were rolling, and I, 2:30 in the morning, I'm just kind of chilling there. I'm like, I think maybe I should go downstairs and walk around. And I went downstairs and I wound up passing out on that couch. And I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, so I'm chilling there with 2.5 hours of sleep. And then we make the 2.5 hour drive up to the launch site and see all the friends there and everything. And,
how many times did you repack the main
chute? It was a good day. 3 times.
That's not bad. That's about
times.
average.
Yeah. 3, yeah.
I did 4 on mine.
Wait, did I
my level 3?
Did I put that extra fold in there? Like, I don't. Oh man,
I better do it again.
The shroud lines always freak me out. Like, how do you wrap that? And Joe attests to this, man. I mean, you lay out your chute in a big square, and then you loop the shroud lines so that they don't touch, and they're all symmetrical and they're all the perfect distance from each other. Then you carefully wrap it and burrito it. I mean, that's how I like to do it. I had like I considered using a deployment bag, but I didn't have a good pilot chute that I trusted, so I didn't want to try. I've never done that before, so I didn't want to try it. So I just put a couple of big pieces of Nomex in there, and
that sounds familiar because I bought a deployment bag to use on my level 3,
right.
And I turned up not using it at all. So I've got this big my parachute, and I also solved the problem by using the parachute with 4 lines. The big thick strapping lines. Mm-hmm. So I got around that. So it's the same exact thing I was thinking about when I was putting it all together. And I started working on the deployment bag, and I'm stuffing it in. I'm like, man, this thing's in here. This thing's like tight.
Right.
It's like, oh man. And I'm like, you know what? Why are you doing this on a level 3? Forget about the deployment bag. You don't need it. I mean, and it would be cool.
Stick with what you know for sure. So that's
stick with what you know, right? And I left it out, and I'm glad I did. And I haven't used it since. I mean, I've done some smaller deployment bags, but not on the L3, not on any of the big stuff. For some reason, it's just a thing, so I'm going to go with it.
We should probably take this moment to take a quick break here on the Rocketry Show. So we're going to do that. So we're here with Joe Hill. It's a workshop episode of The Rocketry Show. And we'll be right back with more after this.
Going up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, liftoff.
From Little Beth Media, a new podcast on model rocketry. With build techniques, model rocket history, interviews with industry insiders, stuff for beginners and longtime model rocketeers. Everything from low to mid-power. The Model Rocket Show with me, the Rocket Noob, at TheRocketryShow.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
It's time for Serious Rocketry. Serious Rocketry since 1998, providing the Rocketeer with great kits, motors, supplies, and more. They have lots of products in their ever-growing web store with fast shipping, wide selection, and courteous service. You can also check out the amazing and popular Serious Rocketry kits that harken back to the days of fun-to-build detailed kits that are more than just 3 fins and a nose cone. Jeem, what did you find today?
Oh, thank you, CG. It's always fun looking at the Serious Rocketry website. And I've been looking at some things always, and I've found something that is kind of a neat little niche kind of a thing. Now, you guys all remember the Estes Pro Series 2 Der Big Red Max, I'm sure, the 4-inch version of it. I stretched mine and turned it into a dual deploy Red Max that I fly on I-200s, and that's one of my favorite flyers. Got over 20 flights on that thing now, and it's still going strong. Well, Estes also has a smaller version that has come out. It's the Estes Pro Series Der Big Red Max with a 3-inch diameter version. So it'll still deliver the long, slow liftoffs that the Red Max is famous for. And can you imagine like seeing an Estes F-15 motor flying on a 3.5 second burn on this? It's a very cool rocket, and it's not just fun in the flying field, it's also a lot of fun to build. It's got through-the-wall fins making assembly and alignment easy while giving this rocket the strength that you need to fly it over and over again. And, of course, just like every other Red Max, it has the classic Skull and Bones 18-inch parachute. So it's 29 millimeter, recommended for E16 or F15 motors, but you could certainly put composites in it if you wanted to. With 29 millimeters, you have a lot of room to play with. The projected altitude on the F15 would be about 1,000 feet, maybe 1,100 feet. Recovery system's an 18-inch Skull and Bones vinyl parachute, so it's a little bit heavy-duty kind of vinyl. It's not nylon, but it's very sturdy, very strong. And takes just a couple hours of assembling. The fin materials are laser cut wood. The decals are self-stick, and it is ready to go. So it's a great rocket. It's a smaller version of the Pro Series Dare Big Red Max, but it's also a very nice little park flyer. Or if you wanted to beef it up and give it a little extra punch, you could do some modifications and probably go high power with it fairly easily, I would think. The sale on this is going for $42.49 at Sirius Rocketry.
All righty, and Sirius Rocketry's website features real-time stock tracking, which lets you order with confidence from their online store, no having to call or write to see if something is really in stock. When you're ready to fly, Sirius Rocketry has motors and hardware in stock, from Estes through Aerotech High Power, as well as popular electronics from Jolly Logic and more. Be sure to ask them about their club specials as well. Visit their websites today at siriusrocketry.biz and .com. Sirius Rocketry, for the serious Rocketeer. North Coast Rocketry, one of the first high-power rocketry kit companies ever, takes advantage of over 30 years of high-power experience by a world-class Rocketeer. You can look to North Coast Rocketry to expand your high-power rocket fleet. In addition to great kits, North Coast Rocketry also stocks lots of must-have items and accessories for every Rocketeer's workshop. Find out more about these kits and other great products today. Go to northcoastrocketry.com. And while you're there, don't forget to get their latest catalog, northcoastrocketry.com. Advanced rockets that are easy to build, fun to fly, and look great on display. The Rocketry Show would like to thank these listeners for their personal support of the podcast: Timothy Mock, Jeff Curtis, Phil Bridges, John Sicker, Marcelo Francasa, Scott Masters, Roy Tyson, Rob Hoagie, R. Smith, Gary Dial, Jay Pullman, Don Johnson, M. Erisman, Pierre Marlou, Jeff Curtis, Brian Lopato, Philip Calvin, Jay Bryan, Casey Anderson, Terry Dancer, Mark Essenwine, Jim Wilson, Jason O'Scally, and Scott Masters. If you wish to show your support for The Rocketry Show, just visit us at support.TheRocketryShow.com. Welcome back to The Rocketry Show at TheRocketryShow.com. Jesse jamming. He was seat dancing to the show rejoin bumper. I saw that. We're talking to Joe Hill. And Joe Hill almost went off and told another story. And we had to say, stop, save it for the show. So, because it sounds like we're getting into something funny. So we're going to pick up with what you're going to talk about there, Joe.
Yeah, we were just talking about how, you're double and triple checking everything when you're, running your deployment charges, and how many times do you pack your parachute, and how do you pack your parachute, and this, that, and the other. And I'm out of the field and my nerves are, really, I'm shaking and I'm really nervous, and I'm sitting there trying to pack my parachute in the deployment bag, and my hands are just, shaking really, really bad. And two of my buddies who like to give me a hard time kind of lean over my shoulder. They're going, "You sure you got that quick link attached?" Just giving me all sorts of...
after it's all in the airframe and everything, right?
On the launch
exactly.
pad.
They're going, "Oh man, are you sure you got that knot tied around that quick link right?" And they're about, as the countdown is going, you're going, "Oh my God." So it makes you second question yourself, but that's why you get your checklist, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
or talk about pucker factor, man. Like, you guys always mention the pucker factor, and boy, it was so bad that day,
Right.
Jeez.
And you're sitting there going, you've done all this before. It's just a bigger rocket, or at least that's what I was trying to tell myself to calm myself down. Right? I'm just traditional dual deploy flight. You've done it a million times. It's just a much larger rocket. And of course, all your buddies are giving you crap. It's kind of a thing in our club in North Carolina, is when you're going through, or at least for a level 3 certification flight, just everyone is hounding you, right? It's kind of like a rite of passage. So
that is your rite of passage. Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's the same everywhere.
Everybody has their moments. Like on my last set of test flight test from my flight computer, the flights themselves went great, but the first time I flew the rocket, I forgot to turn on the chute release. I had it all packed because I tested it on the ground and everything, and I put it all back together, and I put it in there, and it's like the system is telemetry is coming back, crossing 400 feet. Yeah, the chute should be opening right about now. It's 300 feet. The chute should have been open a long time ago.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the rocket was already separated, so it had enough drag that it didn't. It got some scratches on it, but it wasn't like a lawn dart or anything.
Yeah, and you got to leave yourself that, that extra 200 to 300 feet when you let that thing do its job too. So that's another thing is like, oh, that's looking really low there. And then finally it releases. You're like, oh, whew. So I start setting it like around 700 anymore. So.
Yeah,
but
that's with the chute release. I find that you don't have to really. You can cut your margin close on it. It actually works better when you do, because I hate it when your parachute opens up a couple hundred feet higher than you were going to do it because you're like kind of like, oh, I want to make sure, but then you got to walk because you caught this breeze or a thermal or something. And it's like, dang, damn it! Now I got to walk another half a mile to get to it.
So hey, Joe, how long have you been doing rocketry? You sound kind of young to me, dude. What's going on there?
Well, I'm probably in my 26th or 27th year of flying rockets.
Wow,
I've been doing it since I was about 3 years old. Yep.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Well, that tells you what your age is. No, and we understand that you have been flying with your dad for quite some time too, right? And he's also level 3 into rocketry as well.
Yeah. So a long time ago, just like a lot of people in the early 60s or whenever my dad started, he picked up an Estes rocket, and it's where most people start, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he flew rockets through his teens and into college and kind of got out of it. He was looking through a catalog at a hobby store in, I want to say, the late 80s. And he saw pictures of composite motors instead of these black powder motors that everybody was flying. And I think his first kit was an Aerotech Initiator, and he was able to fly it on an F motor at a ballpark here in our hometown.
Jeez.
He said the second that motor came to pressure, he said, "Oh my God, I can't believe this is legal." And, it really caught his attention. And, a club formed shortly thereafter, and that was Tripoli, East North Carolina. Some guys that are still in the hobby. Jim Scarpine was one of those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
Jim.
He still flies. He doesn't live too far away from me. He lives in just north of Durham, North Carolina, which is about an hour away from me. But he's still in the hobby. Some other guys, Ron Gold, and some other names escape me right now. But my dad was one of the founding members of Tripoli, East North Carolina, a long time ago. And the club started out with 5 or 6 people, and it just grew from there.
That sounds good to me. I can't. So he just, an Aerotech Initiator is kind of a big deal. I mean, you just mentioned Estes kit, and then that's not an Estes kit. That's a mid-power rocket, man. I mean, first time I flew an F, I was pretty floored, and that was pretty recent. That was 2017. So yeah.
And the reason he got back into it is because he started a family, and he wanted to do something. He wanted to involve the family in a hobby, get them to really do something together.
Exactly.
So
that's what you did, Gene, right? You went and got a PS2 series rocket.
I did. My son is not really that interested in it, but that's okay. I kind of kept on going.
Yeah, and that's what happened. My dad tried to share the hobby with my older sister and my older brother, and they didn't really take to it. But man, I definitely got the HPR bug.
Oh yeah,
hard.
Yeah, I tried to get my kids into it, and
but it's great. It's a hobby that my dad and I have shared, since I was literally 3 years old, and I just turned 30 this past year, and we still fly rockets together at the same club. Still fly big rockets.
Cool. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
It's really, really cool.
Does he help recover the big ones with you?
Yeah.
I usually go get them for him at this point, because it's those big heavy rockets are not an easy feat to get out of the field. Even for me, like I flew the rocket that I got my level 3 on again as just kind of bring it out of the woodwork, and because it's been a while. and carrying that thing in, man, takes a team of people. It's no easy feat. As Jesse knows, carrying a 50-pound rocket back from the field is rough.
Through corn stalks and everything else.
Well, part of the reason why I coach a TARC team is so I can bring those guys along to be my recovery crew. So it kind of works out.
There you go. That's the secret. That's the key.
The official old man secret.
I do a lot of mentoring of the universities here in town, and man, they come to launches clusters, and with COVID, it's a little bit different. But at a normal launch, I would recruit those guys to help me bring these big rockets back in from the field. So I totally know what you mean, Gene.
I've got a couple of cold ones in the cooler for you as a present if you bring it back.
Right.
And a slice of cold pizza to go with it.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. That is good launch food. That is good launch food.
Very true.
Never talk about that. What do you guys take to the range, guys? I mean, that's a good question, right? Like
donuts.
What do you pack in your cooler?
Donuts.
Donuts.
I usually the night before I usually make myself like a lunch meat sandwich of some sort, like roast beef or a turkey sandwich and some chips, and usually a Gatorade or a big jug of water or something, something that I can snack on and still work, because I want to kind of have my eyes peeled at launches, make sure everybody's safe.
Yeah.
I don't really have time to like sit down and have a full meal,
Yeah, good call.
Pretty much the same story here, Lots of water, lots of... I don't do the Gatorade because I try to save from all the sugar in it, but I do have sugar-free versions of that, but it's the powder you could put into some bottled water and, stay hydrated. Make sure you don't have any Charlie horses after you walk back round trip of 4 miles to get your rocket or something.
Right.
Oh,
so, getting into your next levels of rocketry, and I'm asking for a friend. When you, see, I'm laughing. Anyway, when you start getting into things where your rockets are going to break Mach, when you're designing your rockets, what kinds of things do you keep in mind for making sure you're going to have a successful Mach flight, from the design, fins, et cetera, and that could be open to everybody? Personally, for me, the first thing I think about is the compressional axis of the body tube and how I'm going to keep the fins on. Those are the number,
right.
I guess, 1 and 2 things. And then you really take into consideration materials, whether you want to use wooden fins and lay them up with carbon fiber, like Jesse's done for his L3, or if you want to use filament wound, or not wound, but I guess G12 or G10 sheeting, or if you want to, use carbon fiber fins themselves, and also high strength epoxies as well, and high strength resins.
What's your favorite glue?
Oh yeah, that's the question. There's the debate right there.
Open that door.
Come on. What's the perfect glue? Well, there's a couple different ways to look at that, because different epoxies have different applications, right?
Yeah.
So I really like BSI 5-minute epoxy just because it's so universal. You can do a ton of things with it, right? I can tack on fins. I can build low to mid power rockets, and it's funny. One of our club members built a rocket out of some. I think it was all G10 or G12, but he called it the 5-minute express because it was built with all 5 minutes. And he flew it on an M motor, and it worked just fine.
Holy,
it was
moly.
a 5.5 inch. Yeah, it was a 5.5 inch Mad Cow fiberglass pike,
Nice.
AGM pike, and it really goes to show you how surface prep is key when you're really epoxying things together. But anyways, I went on a tangent there.
No.
For general applications, I really like BSI 5-minute. However, for high strength stuff, for fillets and all that stuff, I really have been enjoying working with solar composites.
Okay. Never used that one.
Yeah, they're great. I use West Systems every now and again. Air epoxy. I built my entire level 3 with air epoxy. That's great stuff.
I'm a rock epoxy guy.
Conway just turned me on to that.
Yeah, my thing with these slow curing epoxies is I'm incredibly ADHD, and I cannot stand waiting for. Yeah, rock epoxy is great too. I hate waiting, 3 hours for epoxy to get tacky, and then 6 hours for it to set,
Right.
And then 48 hours for it to cure, but it's totally worth it. So that's when I put my ADHD on hold and just go, Joe, it's worth it. just be patient.
Whenever I get into that mode, I'm always sure to line up a few projects that I can turn my attention to.
Yeah.
Epoxies. Okay, I'm going to go over here. Oh yeah, you got to design that circuit board. That'll take you a couple days.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I know a couple of old schoolers that fly level 3 on cardboard and wood glue, and they have flown for years doing that.
Oh, man.
So, it's like how you best feel most comfortable working what you like working with. And they insist that wood glue will generally be stronger than the actual material itself. And okay, well, that gets into some other things, but and they usually don't go anything above Mach, but I've seen them. I've seen level 3 cardboard rockets on wood glue go up and come down just fine. So, kudos to them for doing that.
I've also seen cardboard rockets in specific lock materials go through Mach and
yeah, I have
come
too.
back just fine.
I built one actually, using lock parts.
Nice.
So
yeah,
my level
absolutely.
2 Archer has gone past Mach on an L1000. Wow. It's a 5.5-inch Archer, probably about 6 feet tall or so, but it took that L1000 beautifully. Just barely made it past Mach, and I didn't even know it passed Mach until I actually looked at the flight data. I was like, oh, really? So that was cool. That was a good day.
It's a nice surprise. So long-term goals, Joe, what do you got going on? I mean, a few things that we could probably talk about there.
Currently, my main goal over the summer, actually, since this is our building season now, is to get my research setup complete so that I can move on to making experimental motors exclusively and get away from flying commercial. Not that I don't support any of the commercial manufacturers, but it's just another thing that I want to challenge myself at.
A goal. It's a goal.
Because right now I'm mixing motors every now and again, and then it's a mixture of flying my own stuff and commercial, just because the flying commercial is just way more convenient. You can just order a motor, put it together, and go at it. But it's definitely for the gratification of saying, it's just another point when the rocket's on the pad that makes me feel good.
And when you're starting with your setup, because I'm just dipping my toes in these days, how did you go about, because there's so much stuff out there, but it seems like it's almost overwhelming when you first look at it and say, I want to do some EX stuff. So you talk to the guys that do it, and then you go and you mix some motors with them and stuff. But how did you go about getting together your kit, I guess, for getting all this stuff to work?
A lot of trial and error.
Okay.
It was... I think I need this, and then I ordered it, and then I go to start mixing a motor. I'm like, well, I definitely don't have this, so I know for next time that I'm gonna have to order this. And it's a process of just trial and error. You figure out as you go, just like anything else in the hobby, or most hobbies for that matter. That you'll find out real quick if you don't have something. You know what I mean? So
the first thing I bought is a mixer. So
yeah, and my dad and I have had a KitchenAid. Well, it's really his, but he's told me that I can have it. But a little 6-quart KitchenAid, and one of my Christmas presents this past year. So anybody would look at it and be like, "Okay, it's just this." But my dad got me a vacuum pump, a 2-stage vacuum pump.
Oh, nice.
For degassing, and
wow.
I'm going, oh man, that's like the last thing I needed for my EX setup. So. I haven't really gotten into pouring propellants yet. And, if I'm going too far into this, you guys can let me know. But I still pack all my propellant. And it's starting to get to the point where I want to learn how to do pourable propellants, because it's tiring packing, propellant in any form or fashion, whether it's a small 38 millimeter motor or a big, 4.5. Here in North Carolina, the guys that we here's another name that Jesse, you asked me about this earlier. Mm-hmm. A big name that some people might recognize, but I'm very fortunate to have grown up and flown rockets with Mark Lloyd.
Wow.
He's a gentleman who really was on the frontier of mixing or doing research here in North Carolina, and if you're not familiar, you may have seen this video on YouTube, but Sterling Edmonds and him built a project and flew it at LDRS 25, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a 16-inch diameter rocket. I actually have the nose cone for that, and the nose cone weighs 115 pounds, I think.
Nice.
Just to get this to get the CG right, they really had to add some nose weight.
That's just a little bit of weight, just a couple pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a not hand turn, but it was developed from a mold, if I remember correctly. It's got a ton of nose weight in it, but they flew it on an 8-inch 4-grain motor. I don't remember the exact specifics, but it was a Q13. It was a Q13,000. It was I think 130,000 Newton seconds. So they got just a 10-second burn.
Wow.
I'm trying to imagine that.
Now,
but
when
that motor went in, once again, a 16-inch diameter rocket. I think it weighed close to 500 pounds, 500 or 600 pounds. But they got, I can't remember. I have the spreadsheet of the telemetry, and I'll have to pull it up. But I know they went supersonic, and I think they got 23,000 feet at LDRS 25, which I think was in Texas.
Nice.
But he's another guy that really, really helped with experimental stuff.
That's very cool. Like getting into those higher geometries, like 8-inch diameter is pretty good. I know some guys out at FAR that are doing that with sugar motors, but I haven't heard of anybody. I don't know of anybody doing that bigger than 4 inches around me.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool. So like when you start getting into this and you start picking the brains of some of the guys, doing the mixes and stuff, are they kind of tight-lipped about their formulas, or are they helpful and say, here's my book, take a look?
Oh man, they are a wide open book, and it's fantastic. They're so excited about sharing the information, which is as a club member and just general friend of the guys there's no way to pay them back for that. Like I wish I could, but it's totally priceless for the information that they've been able to share.
I've run into with the guys that I'm working with, they're kind of like they want to pass on the knowledge, and it's like there's not many people doing it, and they want to pass it on before something happens. I guess I don't know, but I've come into that where people are very helpful about stuff, and and I just want to start off with some basic propellants, something along the I'm not even I haven't even started messing around with bimodal or trimodal yet. I'm just kind of going with unimodal, I guess. And just starting to play with it a little bit. So I'm a little bit further behind than where you are, but I'm just kind of I've made a few mixes, I've done some motors, I've tested them, I put them on a test stand and went through burn sim and all that other stuff to get an idea of what it can do. And it's fascinating to me. It's like the next step of rocketry is like starting to get into the EX part of it, because you really understand what the chemistry is when you start building them yourself and making them from scratch. And I think that's really, for me, that's where all the excitement is. It's like learning something new and actually seeing it do something awesome.
Wow. Yeah, and it's just like I said earlier. It's just another gratifying thing to add to to this hobby. Right. It just makes you feel, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I guess you just get so much more excited when the rocket's on the pad and, they're about to press the button. It's just something of, hey, I did that too,
Yeah, it's kind of like the soup to nuts on it. Everything on that pad was built by you, and that's cool.
Yeah. And I can get it. A lot of people don't want to get in it for whatever reason. And you're sitting there going, the motor burns up in a couple of seconds, and you're going, you spent a week making that motor? Like,
yes,
sure did.
Yes, I did.
Yes, I did.
And boy, it looked good, didn't it?
You should have seen how long I had to vacuum pump it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a whole nother learning curve. And that's the best thing about this hobby is, no pun intended, the sky's the limit. You can do pretty much whatever you want within the realm of legality, of course. But
of course,
it's great. I love doing EX stuff.
Look how wide this hobby is, guys. Goodness. Talking about the motor, CG, you're making your own electronics and telemetry stuff. I mean, gee, all I can do is paint nice.
Speaking of which, this is the how it's coming along, the new avionics section that will go on to Aries. got the antenna back here, and one of the things I had to do is on this Kevlar, I didn't put any hooks or anything on because I didn't want any metal to be near the antenna.
Oh yeah.
So that way, it doesn't affect the signal. But inside, I'm starting to already dry fit all
that is cool.
So that is the transmitter there, GPS receiver, and then the flight computer over here. So the components are starting to go into place here. So
very cool.
CG, looking at that, it's probably wise not to put any metal near that antenna. Also, so that if you get some sort of whipping, it doesn't break the antenna.
Exactly.
Like a quick light will break that right off.
Right. Exactly. So yeah,
that's a good idea.
Yeah. So it'll be. It's coming together. It's coming together.
So CG just showed us something while we were.
I'll put pictures on the website. Yeah. Now we've got video between all of us here, so we can hold up things and show it to each other while the show's going on.
That's one of the best things about this hobby, man. Is for the most part, everyone is they have got no problem sharing the knowledge of past flights or successful flights, or if something's failed, and everybody's just very enthusiastic about helping one another out. And that's one thing I've always loved about this hobby.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons why I got back into it 7 or 8 years ago, just because everybody was willing to share information. It's not like it's a friendly kind of, not even competition, I would say, unless you're doing contest stuff. It's kind of a camaraderie, I guess, would be the best way to describe it, I would think.
Oh, no, yeah. I think that hits the nail right on the head. The camaraderie is definitely why I'm in this hobby.
For sure.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, here's a question I was going to ask that might take a little while. So maybe it won't take too long. But Joe, tell us about your other quote unquote hobby. The listeners want to know.
Oh boy. Are you talking about music?
Yep. Plug it, man. Plug it. Tell us what you do. Because I don't think CG and Jeem know.
Well, I've always been a lover of music, and when I was about 14, I picked up playing drums, and I don't think there's been a time since then where I haven't been in a band. And for the most part, they're all pretty extreme projects. For the most part, it's normally some sort of technical metal or some sort of very heavy, down-tuned music, and I've just always really enjoyed extreme music. I don't know. I just flocked to it when I was younger, and I'm actually, speaking of which, I was in the studio. I was talking to CG about this earlier, just 2 Saturdays ago, and I tracked drums for a couple new songs for my current project.
Okay,
really trying to make the best out of not being able to play live, which I think everybody's ready to be able to go back to play live. A couple states are allowing it, but here in North Carolina, that's still. Right now, at least, it looks like it's going to be pretty far away. Maybe not even until 2022 can we get out there and play live music. But I've done a couple tours around the states. Nothing as far as, I haven't gone out of the West Coast. The farthest west I've gone is from here, Milwaukee, I think, as far as I've gone. But I've played pretty much in every single state on the East Coast, some Southeastern, others like stuff like Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, definitely Florida, all up, north too. I've played as far as, I think the farthest north I've played is New Hampshire. I played in Manchester, New Hampshire a couple of years ago. And there was a lot of snow and driving a 15-passenger van with a trailer behind it in snow is frightening. It's definitely no, not for the faint of heart. But yeah, the other hobby that I'm still very passionate about is music, whether it's, death metal or whatever subgenre of metal that you want to say.
Speaking
but
my
the band
language,
I'm playing in currently, the band I'm currently playing in right now is called 13th. We're a pretty straightforward hardcore band. We've been together for about 4 years now, and there should be some new material coming out soon that I'll post around for people to check out if they're wanting to listen to some heavy stuff.
I'm kind of partial to the Norwegian metal myself.
Really? Gee, I did not know that. Awesome.
I was a punker in high school. So give me 3 chords and I'm a happy guy.
Yeah. Well, one of the bands that got me into extreme metal, there's 2 that I can tell you when I was like 10 years old, I listened to and I said, I can't believe people sound like this.
Okay.
Was Slipknot. Slipknot's been around clearly for the late 90s.
Wow. Yeah.
But then there's a band, speaking of Norwegian metal, they're not from Norway, but they're from Sweden, a band called In Flames from Gothenburg, Sweden. Those guys were they're much less aggressive, but still melodic than Slipknot. And I got into them at the same time. But what that did was create like a broad spectrum of different styles of metal that, really, really opened my palette as far as influences go.
When you're building rockets and you listen to metal, you get a feeling of power. And that's what makes me want to stand on fin cans, guys. That's what makes me want to do it.
Metal. It's the metal thing to do.
Yeah. And it makes you build them twice as fast.
There you go. Speed build and speed metal. Anyway, it's about that time to take a break here on The Rocketry Show at TheRocketryShow.com. We'll be right back with more from Joe Hill. Stick around. Don't go anywhere.
I have a question for you, my fellow Rocketeers. Are there times that you've looked into your drawer of miscellaneous doodads and parts that would be great to use for your rocketry projects? How about your old smartphone? Hi, this is Jim, and I've run into this very scenario. I was going through my bins of parts and stuff and found an old Android phone, and I thought it might be time to use this in a rocketry project, right? If you do have a spare Android phone lying around, I found this great app that can turn that Android phone into a full-featured rocket telemetry and video recording system. You can go to the Google Play Store and get the Insane Rocketry app. From InsaneRocketry.com, Jason Cook. It is really cool because you set it up in your rocket and fly as you normally would. But this app will give you real-time telemetry data right in the field that will also take video, and you can also help recover your rocket using Google Earth. Now, how cool is that? You guys got to check this out. InsaneRocketry.com and the Insane app for Android devices in the Google Play Store. InsaneRocketry.com.
It's time for eRockets. eRockets.biz has lots of things for you. And to talk about it, here's Randy Boatway.
Well, hi there, Rocketry Show fans. We've got a lot of great deals going on at eRockets. And just for you guys, we've got Excel accessories up to 40% off. You'll save at least 10% every day, but now you're going to get up to 40% off on some of the key items that people use. So if you've got some dull blades, buy them from eRockets right now. No code necessary. Just come on in and add them to your cart, and we'll sell them to you. So we're here for you, Rocketry guys. If you need anything, check up on us. We're eRockets.biz. That's right, eRockets.biz. And you know what? If rocketry scares you, better take up knitting.
Lock Precision Rocketry manufactures a full line of high-quality precision fit components to meet your building, repairing, and customizing needs. Lock Precision believes in making rocket kits as light as possible while maintaining the strength required to fly with commercially available motors. Lock Precision offers a wide range of rocket kits from the 1-inch diameter Lock 1 series to high-power rockets reaching 7.6 inches in diameter. When you visit LockPrecision.com, be sure to check out their Performance Series kits featuring such designs as the Black Brand 10, the Caliper ISP, and the 3.1-inch diameter Iris rocket. All of Lock Precision's performance kits comes with everything you need, including pre-slotted airframes, high-grade precision-cut plywood fins and components, as well as ripstop nylon parachutes, rugged shock cords, polypropylene nose cone, and instructions. The name Lock Precision has been synonymous with mid and high-power rocketry for over 30 years. Check out LockPrecision.com to find out why. LockPrecision.com. Fly higher. Fly Lock. The Rocketry Show would like to thank these listeners for their personal support of the podcast. JohnRocket.com, Jimmy Burgess, Jason Rodney, Sean Falkingham, Conway Stephen, Paul Olivieri, Sam Feinberg, Michael Aylward, Brian Schenkenberger, E. Hudnell, John Thompson, Mark McBride, Doug Wade, C. McCauley, Carl Hunting, the Piedmont Student Launch Team, Steve S., Chris Irving, David Simmons, SBR Rocketry, John Kusher, Christopher Short, Kelsey Black, and Ryan Reniger. If you wish to show your support for The Rocketry Show, just visit us at support.TheRocketryShow.com. Welcome back to The Rocketry Show at TheRocketryShow.com. And by the way, Jesse, when you got your level 3, it was news that went around the world.
What?
Yeah. Here's the North Korean news lady talking about it.
세용의 대륙간 탄도 로켓 시험 발사 성공.
She said that was success.
Oh my God.
Okay.
So she usually saves that enthusiasm for whenever there's a new missile launch in North Korea. But in this case, it was your rocket there, Jesse.
Oh, wow. That's funny.
So anyway, welcome back to the program. I'm CG. We've got Jesse, Jeem, and Joe Hill. And we're having fun with a workshop episode here, talking rockets.
And music.
And music. Metal music.
It's a good, we don't talk about some of the obscure things like that. Like, what do you take for your lunch? What do you, we don't talk about stuff like that. So, but it's important because that's always something you got to add on your list to pack, So thank goodness we don't have to pack CDs anymore. You just got to make sure that you got your playlist down for the night for the drive to the pad, right? So the drive out to the launch site. So make sure you guys.
Spotify is an amazing app.
Yeah. Make sure you guys fill out your playlists for your jams. I like to listen to classic rock when I'm driving out to the field, like early Saturday mornings. Jam some Rush and some Boston and some classic stuff like that. Van Halen, of course, and maybe we shouldn't talk about names like that, but I love like rock and metal. It's good stuff. And when I build, I like to listen to fast, heavy stuff. So,
speaking of classic rock, Rush, man, what a band! and as a drummer, Neil Peart was such a huge influence. I mean, rest in peace. I hate that he passed away. Maybe a year or two ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, that the classic rock world lost one of the best drummers of all time in that genre.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jason Tursik from Locke, if you guys didn't know, he's a drummer too. So when I asked Jason, he's like, "What questions do you have for Joe?" He's like, "Drums." So that's where that came from. Yeah. So thanks for the inquiry there, Jay. Appreciate it.
Now, that'll be a fun post-launch activity while everybody's sitting around talking rockets, and you and Jay will have to bring your drum kits out and do dueling drums.
I'm challenging him to a drum off.
There you
go. Drum battle.
Yeah, the thing is, you got to use burnt out L1000 casings as your sticks. See how that goes.
Oh, man.
What's funny is I don't know if you guys have a lot of the old Earl Cagle videos. I grew up on watching those every single day. I'd get home, I'd sit in class at school and just, daydream about getting home to watch these VHS tapes. But I forgot who did this coverage. It might have been Kai Michelson, but Ricky Rocket, the drummer of Poison, he flew. He was big into high power in the 90s, and I think in 1997 or 1998. Frank Cosden and him and Kai got together and they built this rocket called the Jurassic Kick, and it was made out of 22-inch DW bass drum shells.
Jeez.
And
that's awesome.
They flew it on a Cosden, one of his infamous O-10,000s. But it was 22 inches in diameter, right? Since it was the bass drum shells, it didn't go very high, but it was really cool to see a rocket of that size made of bass drum shells. And of course, there was a giant awesome. DW logo on the side of it. Little fun fact there for you.
I did not know that.
Right? I didn't either. That's good insight. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I don't think it was Earl Cagle that did the coverage. Like I said, I think it might have been Kai Michelson because he's filmed a lot of videos and produced them, and he's converted a lot of those to digital and posted them on YouTube and things like that. But there's a video of that on YouTube somewhere. Just look up Ricky Rocket Jurassic Kick and you can find it.
Cool. All right, I'll have to do that. Thanks.
Take a look for
Yeah.
So where's the coolest place that you've ever launched a rocket from, or like to visit?
Oh, Black Rock for sure.
Wow. Okay.
Nice.
It is like nothing else out there. It's it's truly a special place to fly rockets. I've only been there once though. I went there in 2018 with a couple guys from our club, and we put up a 2-stage out there. Totally successful. I was expecting something to go wrong, but everything works. Got everything back and brought it right back to North Carolina.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that was on a Aerotech M1297 in the booster to a CTI K261.
Awesome. Wow. Mixing it up for sure.
And I got to meet some really, really cool people out there. Some people that I've grown up watching, and it was really, really cool. And I took home a lot of new friendships and new information. It was especially in the research world.
Okay.
I'm sorry, research realm rather.
Realm.
Yeah, the subgenre of it is interesting.
Yeah, because you're going out there and you're like, yeah, I'm going to fly this M to K 2-stage, and they're like, that's it. When they're prepping their P motors, and
yeah,
they go. What's funny is I was helping Robert DeHate. He flew a P10,000 to an O3400 while I was out there. And
nice.
This is an iteration of a rocket he's been flying forever, and I can't say enough about that guy. He's such a kind dude, and he's sitting there. He goes, "Joe, will you go in the trailer and grab me a CTI F motor of just a blue motor, something that burns real hot real quick?" So I did. It was a reload.
And we all know where this is going.
Yeah. So like I said, it was a P to an O, and I see him putting his igniter on the end of a long dowel because the motor's I don't know, the motor's probably 10 feet tall or so, and he literally just put a single grain from this 29 millimeter reload on the end of that igniter, and that's how he lit the P.
Yep.
Wow.
That's awesome.
It's not too far away from what they do for what they used to do for the shuttle. The Russians still do that kind of thing too with their solid rocket boosters.
Oh man.
Yeah, and I've used little chunks of blue propellant or blue propellants, whether it's Blue Thunder or something that I've mixed up on, for bigger motors, but not an entire one grain of an F motor to light my P motor. You know what I mean? And that was something else, man. This totally sub minimum diameter is basically the casing with a set of fins slipped over it, and it's just amazing.
No, that must have been a sight.
Hey, I got a question for everybody.
Absolutely, he was.
Talking about your 2-stage and stuff like that. I got a question for everybody. What's your highest flight so far in rocketry? Your highest altitude, AGL?
I'm about 8,000.
I'm probably the lowest one out of everybody here. It's 3,700 feet.
It's still pretty good.
On the East Coast for me, because we can't, out west you've got a much higher waiver, and that's really the reason why you go out to balls, at least for me. On the East Coast, I've got I think 14,000.
Wow. Okay.
I've got a 4-inch fiberglass rocket that I've flown on a research 6-grain 76 millimeter motor, and got close to it was like 13,956 or something like that. But then the team that I was part of when we went out west, I think we got like it was 23 or 24,000.
Wow. Okay.
What about you, Justin?
Say that 7,018 feet so far.
Yeah, and I'm not a total altitude junkie. It depends on the project,
Sure.
So, like for my 8-inch Archer, I don't necessarily want to go too high with that thing because it's a bitch to get at to lug around because it's 65 pounds without a motor.
Without a motor. Without a motor.
Yeah, and then add another 20 or whatever when he's sticking M in it. But so I'm not like an altitude junkie for that. Although I am building a Wildman 4-inch fiberglass that's 75 millimeter. And that thing, and I did happen to buy one of the M1350s for that rocket. Ooh. So we're going to see how that does. So that'll be, but it's not always about altitude.
And that's another great part of this hobby is you don't have to, nobody is telling you to do anything, right?
Exactly.
You can sit there and have just as much fun going 1,500 feet as, you'd get going 15,000 feet. It's totally what you like. You know? So that's the best thing about the hobby too.
Yeah, you can go fast and high or low and slow.
Yeah. Clusters, big motors, single motors, air starts, 2 stages, whatever.
Yep. Jeez, well, cardboard, fiberglass, carbon fiber,
all of it.
Bits of aluminium.
Aluminium.
After this conversation, I'm like, I don't even want to tell you guys what I'm going to fly at NSL. I got that 4-inch Alien Interceptor, Jim. That's also 75 millimeter. I was going to fly that on an M1297 at NSL. So, yeah. And
there you go.
I want to use my level 3. I want to put some M's and, I want to fly Super Beast on an N at some point.
I bought this M motor specifically for this rocket because I'm looking at it going, this is a 75 mil here, huh?
Yeah.
So, it's going to have a 75 mil motor in it.
Just kidding.
Yeah, and you guys should get similar altitudes because the M1350 is virtually the single-use version of the M1297.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, it's going to be fun. That Mach 1, Alien Interceptor is huge, though. I mean, just, without the payload, the booster section, it's a huge rocket to begin with. It's like nearly 6 feet tall, as it says. So, thanks, Ronald Dunn, for, twisting my arm on that one. It's been a fun
you got to
build,
put
though.
some 75, get the Aerotech 75, what is it, 7680 case?
Yes.
With that M16 in there, man.
Oh, there you go.
That would do.
Yeah, at some
point. Yeah, speaking of which, what's the waiver out at your field there in Colorado?
They're going to slap me if I misquote this, so sorry, Conway and all you guys over at Northern Colorado Rocketry. But I believe that AGL is 12,000. And then,
cool.
So check this out at NSL, which is in Alamosa, which is south of all of us, because I live like south of the Denver area. Their altitude right now, their waiver is 30,000 for NSL, guys, for NAR.
Wow.
Nice.
Right?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Like
Come out, guys. Come hang out with me. I'm going to take
30,000 feet.
I'm going to take my trailer out there and, go walk around, talk to a ton of people. There's going to be a lot of people there. I'm very surprised at some of the folks that are trying to make the trip out. So, I'm excited to talk to a lot of folks there.
Well, if there's a waiver like that, but if you can get your butt out there, you should.
Oh man. Yeah, that's a huge waiver.
That's another thing is the people that go out to those launches that have such high waivers and travel so far, they're hardcore enthusiasts.
They're going to put something
they're
up.
not playing around when they get out there. And Balls is a perfect example of that because you got people coming from all over the world. Like when I was out there was a team from Ireland, there was a team from New Zealand, there was a team from Australia, there was a team from Switzerland, I think.
Wow.
Somewhere in Europe, but they did not speak English, or they did, but it definitely wasn't their first language. And and nobody's going out there and, well, some people are, but it's almost comical. People that fly anything smaller than like an L or a M, because if it's clear out at Black Rock, the second, since there's nothing to reference the rocket against after it goes past the mountains, if it's on like an H or an I, you don't even hear it, you don't even see it because that's how open the desert is. So like I saw a couple, I think they were interns for Aerojet Rocketdyne out there that wanted to get their level 1 certification. And Robert DeHate and Gloria were helping them build these little White Wolf kits that could fly on H motors.
Nice.
And they would take the rocket out the pad and it was like an S. You would hear a and that was it. And then you just never saw the rocket ever again. It's just because it's so small. And you're going, holy crap, is this what this hobby has come to?
Wow.
Jeez.
So on these last episodes that we have, guys, we talked about, FAR, we talked about, Argonia with Airfest and, the Argonia Cup. And now you're mentioning Balls. I mean, look how spread out this is. It's crazy. Wow.
Right. It's everywhere.
And it's definitely not going to get any smaller. That's for sure.
The rockets that are behind me, the green, blue, and yellow one, are my TARC team rockets for my kids. We were supposed to do a launch that got canceled, but that's the next generation right behind my shoulder there.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, those aren't little baby Estes ones for sure. So
Yeah. They're all like, and they all made the parts. They used laser cutters and, used and 3D printed stuff. And so it's kind of cool to see. It's like, I'm privileged to be able to work with those guys.
that's awesome.
For sure. And we see your modified Leviathan, is it back there?
Yep.
No, the one with the red star on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my stretch Leviathan. That thing hits 4,000 feet. Pretty much stock build cardboard.
Nice.
So that's my I-200 flyer.
Is that your
Ah,
Apogee Saturn
200.
5?
Yes, it is.
Wow,
right
dude.
next to the Archer.
That's better than the 10-foot rule that you have there, Jim. That's pretty good stuff.
It's called
Oh,
webcam
thanks.
rule.
Yeah, it's webcam rule. Yeah, what he's saying, Joe, is that my rule is if it looks good from 10 feet, I'm happy with it. So it's my general assessment. Because like I know Jesse and Noob are both really like very much into the fit and finish of stuff, and I am too to an extent, but I don't want to like put so much time and effort into something that's only going to get dinged up.
And I've seen space shuttles and things, and they're all dinged up to a high heaven.
But that's the
So,
other
but
part
if
of it, though. I mean, that's the other part of it. You guys are craftsmen, and you really take pride in that stuff. I do too, but I also want to enjoy some flying time too. So it's kind of a trade-off. So, because I'd be nervous if I built something that was beautiful and and pristine, I'd be almost nervous to fly it. And I say
preach.
almost, but
Preach. Noob has said that. He's like, I'm almost, no, I don't even want it. I mean, I know he's taking rockets out to the field that he just was loaded up, and he's like, nope, not going to do it.
Not going to happen.
Yeah. Gene, that makes a lot of sense. I'm in the same boat. There's a threshold of my finishing techniques to I don't want the rocket to be so pretty that I'm just sitting there like holding my hand over one eye when the button's pressed. I make it look nice and presentable, but I don't go crazy on the paint schemes because they're going to get dinged up moving, like getting them to the field. They're the safest in flight. They get dinged up, take them, in and
you're
out
right.
of your car.
You're absolutely right. I've had it happen.
Right.
Smack the fin on the door, and you're
So
just
sitting
like,
there.
Oh, the Apogee Saturn, I did
And
take
it's
a
so
little
funny.
extra time, but to make that thing look pretty. But just because it's a 5.5-inch Saturn V, I have to. And I still have my lock one that I'm working on, my bigger one. So I got the motor mount built on that so far. So
no, there you go.
And it's really funny because you're sitting there carefully taking it out of your car when you're about to subject it to some serious physics. Like how is me just barely pulling this rocket out of my car going to be any less or any worse or any better, rather, depending on the way you look at it, after I try to send it through Mach, and potentially rip the fins off.
This is me right after, I paint the rocket and it dries. It's like, that's a great paint job. I've never done anything so good in my life. And I go to walk it up and immediately scrape it on the ceiling on the way up on the stairs or something like that. So, well, there you go. First thing.
Well, a little secret with the Apogee Saturn, a little story is I bought 3 of the top capsules with the towers because I knew that I did inevitably break one. So I have 2 sitting in the shelf above my head that are the ones that I put out for fun, for if I really want to show it off. The one that's sitting on the rocket now, which maybe you can't really see it from the webcam, but the one that's sitting on there now, it has packing tape around the tower just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Clear packing tape. So that's the flight. That's the flight one.
And that's one good thing about having fiberglass rockets is if I'll paint them and put several coats of gloss or a lacquer or something on them. And in North Carolina, where we fly, it's a turned farm. So if it rains at all, it gets muddy, right?
Yep.
And it just gets really dirty. So what I'll do is I'll just bring my rocket home and I'll put it in the shower.
Hose it off.
And literally just wash all the mud off because it's not going to affect the rocket, right?
Hose it down.
100%.
Make sure all the
100%.
electronics are out. Obviously, don't want to run those, but yeah.
Maybe the recovery.
I actually give my rocket showers.
Good for you. I like it.
That is workshop talk right there. Right there. That is
now,
workshop
do you use a
talk.
chamois or a paper towel?
Just lay it on the dog.
Just the ShamWow.
The ShamWow, right?
Yeah.
You know, when you're at a lunch, if you have a ShamWow, those are good to put around your neck too. You know, after you dip them in some cold water, you know, you can do that too.
Oh yeah, they're great. Especially in southeastern North Carolina, where we have humidity averaging 75%. That's 105 degrees.
Ooh,
indeed. Joe, you got to get out to Far and check out the stuff in the Mojave Desert. You said you haven't been that far out yet.
I went to Black Rock, but that was it. I haven't been to Far yet.
I have not been to Black Rock,
California.
Yeah, it's in the Mojave Desert. So it's kind of a lot like what you're talking about, but the facilities are incredible. So if you ever get a chance to do that, because I still have to go to Black Rock myself. I have not made the pilgrimage yet, but I will. That's on my bucket list.
Yeah. Whether or not you go out there to just spectate or actually fly, you'll have a blast.
Oh, if I'm going there, I'm flying, baby. That's all there is to it.
You'll have a blast. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw what you did when you said, have you ever been to Far? Because I don't think but you haven't been that far. I heard what you did there too.
Yeah, I meant to do that. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Well, that's just it. Is another reason why I don't frequent Black Rock is there's some serious logistics that go into getting a project of any size out to Black Rock. And I'll tell you a quick funny story of the first time that I went out there. The only time that I've been out there is I'm going through RDU, going through TSA to hop on a plane to go out west. And with me, I have an Aerotech 54-1706 case. I didn't have the closures on it, which made it worse. But when I go through TSA, my book bag goes through the little machine there. They're scanning my book bag, and I said, "Oh crap! I forgot I have this empty aluminum tube in my book bag."
Yep.
Oh man!
In the airport.
What are they going to do?
Right? Because I wanted to bring that as a backup in case for some reason we couldn't fly the CTI. I was like, well, I'll just buy like a K185 or a long burn booster motor. And they pull me aside, and I knew it. I was like, they're going to ask me what this aluminum case is about. So they pull out the casing and basically just toss it behind them, and then pull out a thing of super lube that I had to lube the motors up. Like they didn't care about this black aluminum tube that could have been a pipe bomb for all they know, but they were really concerned about this lubricant. And since it was more than 3.5 ounces of the liquid that you're allowed to bring on a plane, but since it was technically solid, they let me bring it on. But did not care about this tubing. That
good story. That's good.
I kid you not. It was like a cartoon. They just like threw it over their shoulder into this little bin.
Wow.
I said, "Holy crap!" They didn't care about it.
Wow.
Highly concerned about my super lube.
Yeah, well, that's licensed silicone there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, and you still got that tube to use, for a few more years.
I travel.
What do you intend to lube this with, sir?
Yes.
How dare you have this lubricant?
Yes. I inadvertently traveled through I don't know how many airports with a screwdriver in my bag before I found it. It's like, okay, I thought they were like supposed to be scanning for stuff like this,
Yeah, I had to play the UPS shuffle to get, because I had kids in my team had built for an independent project. It was a 6-inch carbon fiber rocket that they took out to FAR to fly on an N5800, a CTI, and it was just crazy logistics getting that rocket out there. And then the propellant, I had a couple of mules that I knew that like so-and-so was going to drop it off in Oregonia at a launch, and then somebody was going to pick it up from there and take it out to Colorado for me. And then it was going to end up going to the Mojave Desert because he was going to drop it off. It was just this crazy story. So yeah, I went through it once. I would do it again if it was my own project, but I would really take my time to make sure that it went well, because we were under a time crunch too, of course. So that, and for the kids' project. So I had a lot invested in the team, but man, that was tough. Thank God for the people in the rocketry community that muled it across the country for me, though. It went to like 3 or 4 different people.
I remember that conversation and your posts about that. I remember seeing that.
I mean, that's like a pretty beefy motor greens. There's like 6 of them, and they're the longer ones. So it's got a little weight to it.
And that's where we're at right now. The project that we are potentially doing, it's starting to get to the point now where it's getting so much of a hassle that we almost don't even want to do it. Because it's another 2-stage project, but this time Instead of flying commercial motors, they're going to be research. And the booster motor is a 7-grain, 115 millimeter homemade. It's about an 5000.
Oh my goodness!
It's roughly 23,000 Newton seconds. But you have to glue the grains in, and I can't. It just needs to be put together before it gets moved out to Black Rock. And
right.
The time crunch, we couldn't do it the day before. We'd have to do it, a month or so before. But we've been thinking about maybe reaching out to some guys at MDRA, which is the closest club to us. Some people that we've flown with for many years, and someone, whether it's Neil or Bob or someone from MDRA, always drives out. And maybe, saying, hey man, can I give you some money to haul can you be my rocket mule for me?
Yep.
Like you said, Gene.
Yeah.
It's just, I refuse to drive that far. I've driven to Colorado once when I was in college for an internship. And I promised myself I would never do that ever again. So I will definitely happily pay somebody to bring it out there for me. And I will fly out there and meet you there.
There you go.
All right. Well, we've come to that point in this show here on the Rocketry Show where we'll have to wrap up and say so long. But, it's been really fun talking to you, Joe.
Guys, thank you for having me. I'm glad to have been able to do this.
And we were glad to have you on.
Awesome. A lot of fun.
We learned a lot of stuff. There was a good conversation. It didn't seem like we sat and talked. We could probably go on another 90 minutes.
Well, everything from Norwegian death metal to 23,000 Newton second motors works for me.
There you go. Anyway, and on that note right there,
keep your eyes in the skies.
All righty, we'll catch you next time here at the Rocketry Show at TheRocketryShow.com. And catch you next time. Stay safe, everyone.
Have a comment? We'd love to hear it. Send them to mailbag@TheRocketryShow.com. If you enjoyed what you heard, don't forget to check out our sister show, TheModelRocketShow.com. The Model Rocket Show is hosted by the Rocket Noob and is all about low to mid-power rocketry. TheModelRocketShow.com with Daniel, the Rocket Noob. Check it out today. The views and opinions expressed on these programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Little Beth Entertainment or its sponsors.
The stories of recovery, moving from darkness into light. You're invited to experience Recovery Talks, the podcast, the show about showcasing the lantern holders in recovery, those who are making it every day. Download it wherever you get your podcasts and learn more at recoverytalks.org.